Welcome to Leverage Point On-Demand Training. In this installment, we will cover the second value modeling tab, Units and Prices. This video is part of a series introducing Leverage Point users to value modeling. If you have not watched the videos that precede this one, I recommend that you do so. So here we are back in the AirVentus cooling system example. For this lesson, I will be looking at the completed version of this model. In the last chapter, we completed the Start tab, tab 1, specifically answering the 3 key questions and defining different units of measure. With that test done, we move on by clicking tab 2, Units and Prices. When you first open this tab, the names of the competitor and your offering will already be copied over from tab 1. The left side of the screen is for the competitor and the right side is for our offering. If I were to change our competitor name to NTGB Plus, notice that when I go to the Start tab, the competitor name will change here as well. This is the first time we see that changing a name or value in one place will also change that name or value throughout our model. Keep this in mind as you move forward. Let's take a look at the right side, namely for our offering BTR system. Directly below the name, you see a total price of just under $600,000 per year. Note that the unit per year is also copied over from the units and currency dialog that we used in the last lesson. See that this price field has a shaded gray background. You'll begin to notice this more and more while working in Leverage Point. Gray boxes indicate a calculation. Here the calculation comes from the price components listed below: BTR High Performance HVAC System, Installation, and Service Contract. That is to say, these components make up the total price of our offering. I'll click the calculator icon next to Service Contract, which opens the formula dialog. Formula dialogs like this are used to quantify price components and value drivers, which are the key building blocks of a value model. Today, we are only covering price components. I want to take a moment to point out some of the key parts. First is the name. To change it, simply click on the name, Service Contract, or any name of your price component. Next come the variables. Here we see a variable, BTR Service Contract per year, that is labeled as variable A. It has a value of $100,000. This is the first variable that we are looking at. If offering, competitor, customer, and units define the scope and scale of our model, variables provide the details of our calculation. We'll cover variables more in a later video. Here I can change my variable value from $100,000 to whatever I like. For this example, I'll make it $90,000. The formula is simply variable A, which you can see right below. So the price is $90,000. Now if I want to add another variable to this formula, say service cost, I click Add Variable and type the name. By clicking Add, I will add my variable to this formula. To add a value, simply click in the box and add a value. To add this variable to my formula, I go to my formula box and I simply add the formula the way I would like to using an appropriate math symbol, in this case a plus sign. And I have a new formula. Since I don't want to keep this variable, I'll remove it by clicking this down arrow and selecting Remove, and removing it from my formula. Next, notice the unit of measure. Here, the unit is year, which is appropriate for this price component. Once you select a unit of measure, our price component will be converted to match our base unit of measure in the model, which in this case is year, so you see price per year here. However, I do have options of selecting a different unit of measure. Here are the options for the other unit of measures in this model. One we covered in our last video, HVAC System Life, and others which I'll cover in future videos. To see the unit selection in action, imagine that BTR contract above wasn't an annual contract, but a contract for the life of the HVAC system, which if you recall from our last video is 10 years. In this case, I would select HVAC System Life as my unit of measure. The tool automatically calculates this as per year cost, which is my service contract divided by 10. And $10,000 per year is my new cost. It is very important to remember that although you can select any unit of measure, your formula calculation must match your unit of measure. Choosing the wrong unit of measure can give you incorrect totals. At the bottom of the formula dialog is a text field to input notes. Sometimes it's useful to provide some explanation about your formula. As I don't want to save any of the changes I just made, I'll click Cancel. Let's look at another one of our offering price components, installation. Here we have two variables, BTR installation cost per square foot and facility size. Our formula multiplies these two to get a total installation cost. Notice the unit of measure here is HVAC system life, which makes sense because you only install once. This gives us a yearly cost of $16,000. Lastly, I want to take a look at a slightly more complicated price component, BTR High Performance HVAC System. We have two variables here, A and B. But look, here is something new. Notice how variable A is shaded. If you remember before, shaded boxes mean a calculated value. Click on the shaded box or FX icon to open the calculation. When I click on it, we see more variables and another formula. I can click on the FX or shaded box again to close it. Subformulas are a good way to organize complex calculations. Leverage Point allows you to add multiple levels of subformula. We'll talk more about setting up subformulas later. Feel free to review the other price components in your training model. Although I did not cover any competitor price components, they function in the same way. Before we conclude, I do want to make a couple of points about price components. First, there will be times when you do not have the price of your offering. This occurs with new products where we want to use the value model to help set the price. So in this case, leave the right side blank. Likewise, there will be times when you don't have the competitor price. Or the next best competitive alternative is an in-house solution that really doesn't have a price. Again, in this case, just skip the left side of the screen. Either way, you can still go ahead and build the rest of your value model. This concludes units and prices.